Well, good afternoon, Nathaniel. Thank you so much for joining us and for telling us all like some of the problems that MacDintons have so that we are able to do this project on it and give you some recommendations maybe on how to solve them. Our group name is Catalysis Consulting, and my name is Maria Duarte.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Jang.
Hi, I'm Carlos Montenegro.
I'm Lorena Bonilla.
And I'm Leo Menka.
Okay, I'll be starting out with kind of the company overview. So we noticed that it's an Irish themed sports bar with that nightlife venue. So it's definitely in that originally from Tampa Bay, located definitely in the Midtown nightlife district across from University of Florida. And it's known for the high Irish hospitality, the food, the drinks, and the events that they host. In continuation, the company structure and venue layout is combining of a business model with the sports bar and Irish theme with the nightclub style entertainment. And it does have like a large multi-level venue with these dance floors, the rooftop social area, which the current layout does create traffic congestion in key areas that we've noticed, while other sections of the venue are underutilized. So that can lead to uneven customer distribution and even slower service during these peak hours. The market context itself, we've noticed that the primary customer base is these college students from 18 to 22, especially UF undergraduates. And then these secondary segments can be the graduate students and even local residents of Alachua County. We've noticed that the customer behavior itself is definitely highly social and experience driven. So that means it could be based on theme nights, events, they're driven by that. And it has that high density with the nightlife and bar environment. Like some characteristics would be that it's a fragmented market, so you do compete with many small to medium bars in that same area, especially in Midtown itself. And it definitely is experience-based competition, so the success depends on the atmosphere and events than more than the product differentiation. So some demand patterns that we've noticed was that there's peak demands Thursdays and Saturday nights, and especially football games in the fall and spring semester. On the other hand, that low demand is the opposite. So Monday through Wednesdays, summer months when students are out, and that can definitely result in high revenue volatility and inconsistent traffic since it's more unpredictable. Some industry factors, what we noticed is that this MacDiddons operates in this college town bar and nightlife industry, so it definitely is heavily dependent on this student spending. So that is overall with revenue driven by alcohol sales, events, and nightlife entertainment. So there does exist this competitive environment, and there's a high intensity of it since there's a lot of nightlife clusters and bars in Midtown Gainesville. And that can definitely be due to the multiple student focus bars offering similar drink specials or even these event theme nights that might be similar among different bars. And these competitors do compete based on that, especially location convenience. So one of the key industry challenges is that these operators must manage both high volume peak nights and low demand off seasons, while also kind of differentiating in this saturated experience driven market. Some consumer trends that we've noticed was that it's definitely experience-driven consumption and speed and convenience. So again, as previously mentioned, there's the demand for the theme nights, but also there's high expectations for fast service and short wait times. We want consumers to stay, and more often or not, when these lines are long, they leave when this and the switch cost is very low, so it's easy to switch to another bar. So you want to reduce that. Other consumer trends is social media influence and group-based decision making. So there definitely is a strong preference for visually appealing spaces, and you already have that with the rooftops and aesthetic interiors. And these group-based decision making, a lot of people do go in groups rather than solo. So trying to market towards that and having perceived crowd size and safety and comfort within large crowds, that's another big trend. In continuation, we have these key external insights. So market pressure, competitive reality, and external constraints. So it definitely is located near the UF, so that does make demand more concentrated towards students. And the market is very high, but there's low differentiation and low switching cost. So you want to make sure that you are going on that safety regulations and customer resistance to these restrictions. While internal insights like is more towards operational and organizational impact, so that can be to staff. We want to make sure that there's a structured crowd management system and there's reduced service efficiency. So there's a lot of lost revenue per customer, so we want to increase that. So lastly, what does the future of McDonald's look like in 2026? So with the current business model right now, at the base is how the business operates day to day. We've noticed that's like the operational foundation. So that is the reactive crowd management, the staffing, and even the multi-level venue itself. In the middle is who they target and the experience they create. We have the target market and the customer experience. Again, the target market is these, you have students with heavy reliance on the behavior patterns of them, and the customer experience is the nightlife environment itself and the social group-based experience. And finally, at the top is how we make money. That's the revenue drivers. So that can be alcohol sales, high volume sales during peak hours, and even event sales. So the issue is not the model itself, it's just how efficiently it's executed. The current business model really is built to maximize this high volume peak demand, but it does lack the operational structure needed to efficiently manage that demand. So I'm going to pass it on to Carlos so he can go a little bit more in depth on the specific problems that we've noticed. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorena. One of the biggest issues is inefficient crowd flow throughout the venue. Currently, guests tend to cluster in high demand areas like the second floor, while the first floor remains underutilized. The current approach is mostly reactive staff only step in once overcrowding happens, rather than guiding guests proactively. There's also no structured system to direct movement between floors. As a result, this creates a congestion or movement between spaces and reduces the overall efficiency of the venue. Another major issue is overcrowding, which leads to customer frustration. Right now, capacity limits are enforced manually, and there's no clear or transparent system for customers to understand why they can or cannot access certain areas. This causes certain floors to fill up quickly, forcing staff to deny entry, and that often leads to arguments, slower lines, and perception of unfairness. Ultimately, it creates a negative customer experience and puts extra stress on employees. The third issue is underutilized space and weak differentiation between floors. Most floors don't have strong identity, and there's limited promotion of unique experiences in different areas. Because of this, the rooftop becomes overvalued while the first floor lacks appeal. This leads to uneven demand, missed revenue opportunities, and limits the overall customer base. And finally, problem number four, there's also a clear imbalance in how floors are used. Traffic is heavily concentrated on the second floor, while the first floor is often underutilized and seen as just a pass-through space. This results in lost revenue and overcrowding upstairs, which hurts the overall guest experience. The current setup reinforces the issue since the second floor acts as the main attraction while the first floor lacks energy and purpose. I'm gonna pass it to Elizabeth right now.
Yeah, thanks, Carlos. So while we were going over our solutions, we also realized that some of these were a little bit too risky and others could also be viable. So on our options that were actually eliminated from consideration, we had the two main ones, which were heavy security enforcement and eliminating popular floor areas. So while these could control that floor flow access and management, it could also slow down operation and create conflicts and probably anger some regulars, which would overall reduce revenue. But then on our options that were viable, but we could consider later on, we have our VIP premium ticketing, which could generate that extra revenue, or we could do the timed entry for floors, which would be assigning that specific time slot per floor person. So it can improve our crowd flow, but again, it might feel a little bit restrictive to our customers. And so that brings us on to the final part of the first part of our presentation, which is answering how we can improve this crowd distribution. So we have our two strategies, which are our upgrade and our differentiation, and our tactics, which are our website features with the QR code and our remodelation of the space with the marketing. And so essentially these strategies are going to help us optimize the crowd distribution and reduce congestion in our high demand areas. And it's going to improve our overall customer experience while lowering that staff stress and conflict.
Let's start with our upgrade strategy, focusing on the new website features tactic. After researching hospitality trends, we found that about like 70% of customers prefer venues that provide real-time and clear information about how busy a location is. In addition, other studies show that about 35% of businesses using a digital queue reservation system can reduce the perceived wait frustration. So based on this, we believe that MacDintons has to have a new system to deal with the capacity at each floor. For the fifth feature, we will allow customers to reserve their preferred floor when purchasing tickets online. When buying tickets, kind of similar to this image, they're going to be able to see both floor. They're going to see the description. They're going to see what is going to be the events, the atmosphere, what kind of music is going to be at each floor, and then they're going to reserve the preferred one. In that way, when the guests arrive, they already know where they're going, and that is going to create a more like smoother and more organized entry process. Some of the benefits for McDintons is that there's going to be better crowd distribution, fewer conflicts with staff, and we're going to have improved operational efficiency, which means that there's going to be less work for staff. In regards to the customers, they're going to have clear expectations. They're going to have reduced frustration. They're going to have to wait less, and they're going to have a better experience and just a better perception of how fair it is. We also want to make sure that the customers are not locked into one floor all night, while still keeping all organization and control. So for that, they're gonna have this new feature that is going to be a digital waitlist through the website. So when the space becomes available, you're gonna receive a notification through messages telling them that they can move to that floor. This is gonna remove the need of any physical lines, reduce crowding, or making the staff have to handle like where people are going and everything. Some of the benefits for McDintons is gonna be that it's gonna be more efficient crowd flow. We're going to have lower staff stress and workload, and we're going to be able to have some data collection about some of the consumer patterns. For the consumers, there's going to be, as I said, no physical lines. They're going to have a clear process. It's going to be fair, and it's going to be at the same time flexible. We also know that most people don't go out alone. They usually come in groups. To support this, our third feature focuses on enhancing the group experience. We're going to propose a group-based system on the website where the customers can create and link their accounts before arriving, which is going to help them plan their night together. Groups are going to be able to do floor switch or floor swaps with other groups. For example, I have a group of 7 people in the first floor. There's a group in the second floor that they want to switch to the first floor, and they're 5. It doesn't have to be exact. It doesn't have to be 5 for 5 people. It can be like there can be like an around like a certain number. It's gonna be like approximate, and the system is gonna take care of doing the math for that. So it's gonna look like this. As I said, they're gonna have to create the groups, and they're gonna like ask for the floor swap. For McDinton, some of the benefits of this is that we're gonna improve the space utilization. We're gonna have a flexible capacity management. We're gonna reduce conflict, and we're gonna be organized. For the customers, they're gonna have control over their experience. They're gonna have a better group experience, and they're gonna have access to both floors. Of course, while these features offer many advantages, there are also several barriers to having a more interactive website in a night-like environment. For example, there's going to be customers that they might be intoxicated, so they might just ignore notifications or just not follow instructions. Complication number 2, this is going to require an investment because we're going to have to develop and integrate a new digital system. Complication number 3, we're going to have to train the staff since the employees have to learn how to this new website features work so that they can explain it to the consumers. Complication number 4, there's going to be people that are going to resist to the adoption of these new website features precisely because they just prefer to have a free flow, don't have to like use an app to see where they're going. They just want to do it like naturally. Complication number 5, it can be complex in regarding like operations, just like coordinating everything. And complication number 6 is that like, what about the customers that purchase the tickets ahead and that they do it like on person? So this brings us to our second tactic, the QR code. Since not all guests purchase the tickets online, the in-person customers can scan a QR code upon arrival. By scanning it, they're going to gain access to all the same features that the people that get the tickets online get. Some of the benefits for this is going to be that McDintons is going to have a more inclusive system for all their guests. They're going to have reduced congestion at entry points. They're going to increase participation in the system, and they're going to have real crowd management. For the consumers, They're going to have equal access to all the features, they're going to have convenience and speed, and they're going to have control over their experience. And this QR code is not going to be only located at the entrance, because when they want to do like the floor swap, when they want to join a wait list and all of that, they're not going to go to like to the entrance to do so. So there has to be like this QR code all over the location. However, this tactic also comes with some potential challenges similar to the ones that I mentioned previously, like for example, the customers that are intoxicated. Also, the second complication is that not all guests are gonna have a phone, maybe battery, or maybe even internet, so that might be a problem. The third complication is that there can be system failures or glitches during the first week, since the system is kind of learning like how to handle like all the crowd. And the complication number four is that keyword scanning at the entry could create congestion if it's unmanaged. To implement these features effectively, we propose a three-phase rollout that allows MacDintons to scale gradually while minimizing the risk. The phase number one is the low-cost pilot, is where we're gonna add the basic website updates like floor description, event listings. We're gonna also use the QR code for a simple waitlist system, and we're gonna introduce the optional floor selection during the ticket purchase, and also train the staff about like how this new system kind of works. In phase number two, is going to be the system integration. We're going to implement the notifications about the wait list. We're going to have real-time capacity tracking, and we're going to introduce voluntary floor switch feature. And phase number three, the last one, is going to be the full rollout. This is going to fully integrate all features into the ticketing platform. We're going to promote it through social media and do marketing, and continuously optimize and get feedback. So an example of how this is going to look like. So nowadays, we have Luna. She arrives without knowing the floor availability, and she usually likes the second floor, but it becomes full. When she wants to go to the second floor, the staff is gonna have to deny the access, and she gets frustrated. So arguments are gonna occur. She's gonna feel unsatisfied. She's gonna feel that she just paid to not go to the floor that she wanted to. So it's just gonna feel unfair. With the new experience, if you guys decide to take our recommendations into account, Luna is gonna buy the ticket and sees the events on each floor and selects her preferred one. If full, she can just wait, and she can just join the waitlist via her phone, and she's gonna receive a notification whenever that space open. Now she's gonna be able to have the full experience. The problems that we fixed is gonna be that now she has clear expectations. Our staff is gonna have lower workload. We're gonna have happy customers, and we're gonna have a balanced distribution, and we're gonna follow the law. Um, these ideas are not entirely new. They have already been used, and they have been successful in other nightlife venues. For example, 11 Miami, they use tiered ticketing and table reservations. They have control access to different areas of the venue. They use digital systems and QR-based entry. So this is kind of similar to our reservation and experience selection idea. We also have Marquee Club Nightclub, which is a multi-level venue where guests reserve specific sections or areas, and the host sometimes can relocate or upgrade groups based on the availability. So it's kind of similar to our floor reservation and the switching when the space, like switching the groups when the space opens. So if our recommendation has worked before for other venues, they can also work in MacDintons. Finally, it's important to highlight the impact of this strategy, both qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative, we're going to have customer satisfaction. They're going to perceive that it's fair and we're organized. We're going to reduce the stress for the staff, and we're going to have a stronger brand image. Quantitative, we're going to be able to reduce customer complaints and conflicts by about 35%. We're going to increase customer retention during peak hours. We're going to improve flow efficiency at entry points, and we're going to potentially increase the revenue since we're keeping the guests inside longer. So all of this is thanks to the improved operational efficiency and capacity management that we were able to get thanks to our upgrade strategy. Now, Leo is going to go over a differentiation strategy, focusing first on the remodelation tactic.
Thank you, Maria. I'd like to start with a little bit of research we did in the hospitality industry. We found that 57% of patrons explicitly do prefer the multi-vibe venues where they're able to change environments without leaving. And by utilizing that multi-functioning zone, industry benchmarks shows that we can drive a 25% increase in average customer spending per visit. And so we'll start with the first floor. A couple of things I think is key to make changes to is the lighting and overall atmosphere downstairs, um, right? Improving DJ quality and having that consistency on the first floor. Another thing we should change is having themed nights. and rotating those events, but being able to keep that consistent theme. And overall, just having that first floor be a high energy compared to what it is now, being more of a low energy hangout space. So on the left-hand side, you can see an image of what it might look like after the revamps. And so some benefits for MacDintons after these changes would be boosting ROI per square foot, as that's the main goal, right? By being able to utilize that underused space. Right? Turning that into a high margin nightclub is important. And then again, for the customers, it really does create that seamless shift, right? Not only upstairs is going to be high energy, but they'll have that downstairs space as well. And what does that do? It really ultimately turns lines down, cuts wait times in half, or eliminates wait times for upstairs, and overall eliminates the problem of overcrowding and waiting. And for the rooftop, currently, there are two distinct zones. I think it's really important to keep utilizing that to give the customers more options throughout the whole night. And also, I know there's currently a food truck, but I know the menu is limited, and a lot of nights the food truck isn't being utilized. So emphasizing that and kind of putting emphasis on maybe expanding the menu or making it more accessible is really important. So keeping the rooftop high intensity and expanding options and continue to improve the rooftop is really important. An example, yeah. So left hand, we have another image of kind of what it might look like. So having more food options, again, as I mentioned, and what are some benefits for MacDins if we do this? Right, increased ROI per square foot. By more food revenue, customers don't have to leave MacDins to go get food um, at local places. So, right, keeps customers inside. Um, and with higher engagement with the dual DJ setup on both ends of the bars, customers stay longer again and more better use of space. And for the customers, with these multiple DJs of higher quality, there's more entertainment, easier access to food. They don't have to decide, oh, where do we want to get food? They can just say, hey, let's go check out the menu at MacDins. I heard they improved it and allows them to spend more money at MacDins. With these improvements, there are several barriers, some complications on the first floor. We'll start with the cost. Nothing is free at the end of the day, but hiring these DJs, improving lightings, hiring more staff is costly. Um, and again, with all these upgrades as well, it does cost a lot to maintain everything. And so moving on to the second floor, with this improved DJs and food service. That does increase the cost to do that. And along with food, permits, staffing needs to be improved or added on. So ultimately higher costs. And so we'll move on to the marketing side of differentiation. Marketing, I think, even after all the changes and improvements we do. Without the correct marketing, all the effort will be in vain. And so, really pushing the marketing on social media, websites, through local DJs, having food vendors come in and post about it themselves on their social media is really important, and doing that correctly to show the changes that were made, are going to be made, the theme nights that are made, the upcoming changes is really utilizing marketing is really important. A little example on the left-hand side is Instagram. Capturing a great picture of the background, the location, the DJ with a sign and a great caption. Is an amazing way to do it. And so, yeah, what are some benefits for MacDins of doing this? Again, attracts more customers with a clear idea of what they're coming to see, what they're getting out of the experience of MacDins. And that overall does increase tickets, food sales, drink sales, etc. and improves the brand visibility on social media and other platforms as well. And for the customers, they have a clear understanding of what they're getting before they enter MacDintons, um, and ultimately helps plan their night. I know a lot of people like to plan, have a good idea of what they're getting into, so that's great. And then again, more satisfaction overall with customers. And again, with these marketing plans of the renovations, there are some complications. If social media and emails aren't utilized correctly, customers could have the wrong idea of what they're getting and be misled when arriving on the scene. Um, Paying people to market or influencers to come in or other food venues to arrive to scene does cost a lot of money. Um, and ultimately, measuring the ROI on these investments is a difficult task. And so our implementation plan. Phase one should be planning everything out, what specific upgrades you'd like to make, for example, lighting, what DJs, what differentiations we want to do, and what venues and what food menu upgrades you'd like to do for the food truck. Also, just drafting the marketing plan as well for the new experiences on each floor is important for phase one. And after those are clear, um, the renovation can start. Being able to install those new lights, the sound equipment, everything on both floor and both floors, and upgrading everything that may be broken or needs to be changed, and also the staff, and updating everyone on what they need to know. And then finally, in my opinion, one of the most important steps, the marketing launch, really promoting these changes to the customers, new and or old. Really important, showing what changes are made and showing them to their fullest extent. And also hearing feedback from what customers do say about these changes is really important. A quick example, again, mentioned earlier, we'll go with Luna. She goes to MacDintons, and she's looking to go upstairs with her friends, or her friends are upstairs already, and she's just excited to go upstairs. And then she goes to a staircase and she sees a line of 30, 20 people, and the staff says, "You have to wait. You can't cut." And she's unhappy because she didn't go to Macdon's to wait in line for like half an hour or so. But with the new experience, with these new implementations, Luna is able to go to Macdon's and go to the second floor whenever she pleases. Um, and when she's on the second floor, she's on her phone. She sees on Instagram, hey, Macdon's does have great music on the first floor as well. And it looks like a fun time, and all her friends agree and want to go downstairs and spend some time down there. And again, there's no way to go up or down because both areas are utilized correctly. And there, we're able to fix the problem of switching, um, waiting in line, differentiating upstairs, downstairs, and really marketing Instagram or whatever it may be. It's a proof of concept. Hyde Park Cafe in Tampa. It's great. It's a great venue. They do a really good job of utilizing the transition of multiple atmospheres under one roof. They have private VIP rooms, have very high capacity and utilize their square foot really well with the outdoor space being very energetic, but also having really nice decorations with palm trees. They do a great job there, and then inside as well. They do a really good job of making it like a nightclub with great lighting, multiple locations to get drinks with bars. And for Hyde Park Cafe, they are a top tier position for over 30 plus years for USF and UTampa students and locals, which really does validate the dual club strategy, which you can have the high energy indoor and also outdoor programming within the same club. And then another example I'd like to use is Recess in Tallahassee. There, they do a great job of utilizing their pool deck that's outdoors while also utilizing their indoor club. And really, both areas always maintain the peak intensity throughout the whole night. And they also have options for high spending customers with 11 plus VIP tables, both indoors and outdoors. And again, like Hyde Park Cafe, it is an anchor to many students. And for recess, they have students from FSU and FAMU and local people from Tallahassee. And I think recess does a great job again, for that indoor and outdoor high energy model, right? And so these recommendations have worked before, and they can work again for MacDintons. Yeah, sweet. So our impact for the differentiation recommendations, I like to start with qualitative. Again, brand image is key. So marketing, social media needs to be done correctly. Um, it reduces conflicts within the crowd over waiting times and stress, makes decisions easier, right? Overall, you don't go out to make decisions. It's better if the decisions are really easy to make or they're already made for you and perceive value and fairness for customers. And so moving over to the quantitative side, um, right? Higher revenue from drinks, foods, etc., whatever that may be. The key goal to having these investments, right? The guests can stay longer, spend more money within MacDins without having to leave, and creating a happier, more enjoyable time, leading to increased repeated visits and online reservations. And overall, these both qualitative and quantitative differences lead to improved right experience, revenue, and crowd management.
All right, thank you, Leo. So now moving on to our conclusion, we want to start with our financials. This all sounds really great on paper, but we got to address the elephant in the room, and it's how much is this going to cost us and how much money could we possibly make? And so here we're focusing on the financial impact, specifically how our small operational changes are going to drive that meaningful revenue growth. And so we analyzed three main investments, which are our digital waitlist system, our improved floor promotion and signage, and that experience differentiation. So each of these are relatively low upfront costs, ranging from about 1.5 to 4K individually, but the revenue upside is pretty significant. Our waitlist alone could generate between 22 to 45K in additional revenue in the long term, reducing walkways on peak nights. And then our floor promotion and signage adds another 15 to 28K by improving that transparency and guiding our guest behavior. And then our experience differentiation is going to contribute up to 36K by shifting demand and increasing that engagement across both of our floors. And so the key takeaway here is that we're not proposing expensive structural changes, but we're optimizing how the space is being used. And so these are really low cost, but really high impact improvements that's going to turn the lost demand into captured revenue. And so going a little bit more in depth into our financials, on a nightly basis, we estimate an additional 400 to 700 in revenue, primarily just by retaining extra 15 to 20 more guests who could otherwise leave due to these overcrowding or long wait time problems. And from an operational standpoint, we also project a 15 to 25% increase in that rooftop utilization, which is pretty critical because that's the current most constrained and high demand area at MacDintons. And then we annualize these improvements and our revenue falls between 62 to 109K per year. So even after accounting for all these implementation costs, this is still going to result in a net annual gain of approximately 18 to 32K. And so looking at ROI, Leo mentioned earlier that it's not always easy to capture this, but we are seeing strong results based on our estimates, about 6 times on the conservative side and up to 10 times in an optimized scenario. So overall, we're not just improving our operations, but it's going to create this scalable revenue engine for only better crowd management. And then looking at this from a timeline perspective, we laid out a little bit of a time frame for you. So we start with a discovery and diagnosis phase where we're going to analyze the congestion points and conduct our walkthroughs, and we're going to establish baseline metrics like wait times and floor utilization. And then next, we would have the pilot implementation phase, which runs over the first few months. Here, we're going to introduce the key tools like our signage, our staff communication, our digital waitlist system on our peak nights. And this is going to help us gather data and test the behavior so we can refine the process without disrupting these operations. And then from there, we would move on to our full rollout and optimization. So this is going to include adding those real-time updates. We're going to refine the notification timing, and we're going to align promotions with our floor strategy. And so we would be standardizing the operations across the venue. And then throughout this whole process, of course, we're going to continuously evaluate our KPIs. So our customer complaints, our revenue per guest, and our distribution across floors. These are all great data points that are going to ensure that the system is actually improving our performance. And then by the end of the timeline, MacDintons transitions from a reactive crowd management into proactive data-driven system, and it's going to improve both of our customers' experiences and our revenue consistency.
Okay, now looking at our risk analysis, we rank the key risks based on their impact on operations and customer experience. The first and most important risk is customer confusion and mixed perception. If guests don't understand how the system works or what each floor offers, it can lead to frustration and reduce engagement. To mitigate this, we would focus on clear signage and consistent communication from staff. The second risk is the failure to shift traffic to the first floor. Even if space is available, guests often prefer to stay in high demand areas like the rooftop. To address this, we would introduce incentives and real-time promotions to encourage movement. Third risk is overcrowding and balance, where one floor becomes too crowded while another remains underutilized. This negatively impacts both safety and the overall experience. We can mitigate this by using capacity control and actively redirecting the traffic between floors. Finally, the fourth risk is inconsistent guest experience. If one floor feels lower quality than the other, it can hurt the overall perception of the venue. To reduce this risk, we would implement standardized service and staff training across all areas. Overall, while these risks are significant, each one can be managed with the right operational strategies. And for the risk assessment, the floor switch feature risk. Participation may be low since guests often don't want to move once they're settled in. It may also be difficult to coordinate groups and could slow down operations during busy times. For signage and communication improvements, one risk is that guests may ignore signs in a loud, crowded environment. There could also be miscommunication between staff and customers, especially during peak hours. And additionally, the system may rely too heavily on staff to over-explain directions, which could slow things down. And lastly, a digital waitlist system also has potential downsides. Guests might ignore text notifications, especially in a party environment. There could also be confusion about how the system works, leading to frustration. And of course, technical issues during peak hours could disrupt the entire process.
Thank you, Carlos. So all in all, the future of MacDintons is really going to depend on our crowd management. Really bringing us to our finish line here, we want to answer the question how we improve the crowd distribution. And so like we mentioned, we have our upgrade and differentiation strategies, and we were going to have our website features and QR code tactics, as well as our remodelation and marketing. So essentially, our strategies are going to help us optimize that crowd distribution. We're going to reduce congestion in our high demand areas, and we're going to improve our overall customer experience while lowering staff and stress conflict. Thank you so much for your time and for joining us today, Nate. We wanted to open the floor for you. If you had any thoughts or questions for us, feel free to go ahead.
How's it going, guys? Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
All right. No, I mean, yeah, no, this has been really good. A lot of these things we are definitely in the process of implementing ourselves. Pardon me. A lot of it is just hard. Like our boss definitely doesn't want two tiers of tickets as far as like upstairs, downstairs. Unfortunately, there's just nothing we can do about that part. But like a lot of these other points that you guys were making were really good, really insightful. And I think that we can definitely use bits and pieces of your presentation to make everything go smoother. on our end. So I actually just wanted to thank you guys. It was really informative and really just a super solid presentation. And if you're okay with it, I might actually ask for the presentation to be emailed to me so that we I can go over it with my boss. Yeah, thank you guys so much. It's been super helpful, and yeah, you guys did a
Yeah.
great job. Thank you.
Yeah, I can email it to you for sure. Do you have any questions, any part that you want us to like maybe clarify a little bit more, or do you have any questions at all about the presentation? Or any doubts?
No, I mean, I pretty much got like the strategies. I think it would be hard how you reduce staff because, excuse me, it's two different, like, we have three different staircases and all of them need to be manned. Correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things was it reduces your staff needs. Unfortunately, am I correct in that?
It's more
That you said,
about like the workload.
yeah.
I have some friends that they actually work like in MacDintons, and sometimes they tell me like, oh, they moved me from this area and now I have to do this when like their actual duty might be like another one originally. So it's just
Yeah.
that, so they don't have to like take care of stuff that might be like kind of like out of like their original duty. So it's just more about that. It's not like actually getting rid of like stuff or like having to like get rid of
Gotcha.
people.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, we definitely try to have whoever's at like a certain position be at that position all night. Unfortunately, business needs mean sometimes we got to move a guy. Like Angel, for example, I believe he's the one who put us in touch. He is super good with, he's kind of my everything guy. He actually just put in his 2 weeks, unfortunately, because he's graduating, but he is someone that like I have to move. Unfortunately, there are just some times where yes, I'd like Angel to be able to sit at a staircase all day, but whenever you got someone who is as good as he is, you just got to put him where you need him the most, and definitely try to give him some perks for doing the hard job, for lack of a better term. But it is what it is at a certain point. Like you gotta, yeah, no, for sure.
That's what
But
we hope
yeah,
solutions would be able to facilitate the process for you guys and really like remove the friction from these day-to-day decisions.
no, for sure. Yeah, the QR code is a really good idea. Definitely. I think the only like major issue I see with that is just people try and fake our text messages to go upstairs right now, anyways. So they'll, fake a text message from a QR code and all that jazz. But no, it's been super helpful.
That is true, that that can happen. That can be another of the complications. That's a really good point, actually.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think last night, or I'm sorry, on Saturday night, we had 4 or 5 different people who we had to kick out who, had their buddy send them the text and then came up and then refused to leave. So we had to escort them off property, unfortunately. But yeah, no, I mean, that definitely happens a good amount. So while I would love to, streamline the human, like the labor needs, unfortunately, we're gonna need the labor, and we need to have it. That's all there is to it.
Okay, thank you
But
so
yeah,
much again, though, for your time. We're really grateful for the experience, and we'll definitely email you the slides so you can utilize this later.
alrighty. Thank you guys so much. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Great job on this. All right.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so
Have a
much.
good
Have a
one.
great
Yeah.
one.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank
one.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.